My mother once told me, Maria, don't have kids. I wasn't sure if she was kidding or not. In fact, I'm still wondering. The truth is, the more I think about what my parents had to go through in order to raise a family of 7 kids, the more I understand my mother. And to be honest, I'm not sure whether my parents had a perfectly designed plan in order to provide us, the 7 of us, with a well-rounded education, but they definitely had enough subjects to experiment with. I was the 6th out of 7 kids, so by the time they had me, they already knew what strategies were more effective. There were 3 disciplines that we all had to go through: music, languages, and swimming. But on top of that, they sent us to boarding school. Yeah, when we were 13. 2 years in England and 1 year in France. I remember my mother saying, Maria, you're going to love it. They have a fantastic music program, and you'll wear a uniform, and you'll drink tea. She was really trying hard to sell it to us, but I think she just wanted to get rid of us. When I think about it, I'm not sure whether my parents were totally aware of the consequences of their decision. Maybe not. But those 2 experiences, music and studying abroad, became capital in my life, and arguably the best thing that my parents could have done for my education. Of what good have these 2 experiences been for me? I learned to successfully navigate in different environments throughout my life, where sometimes the conditions were favorable, but sometimes not. Obviously, I'm not saying that everybody should be going through these experiences. It's not always easy to be taken out of your comfort zone. But in my case, they became instrumental and significantly contributed to developing my emotional intelligence. What did I gain by studying music? What did I gain by studying abroad? What did I gain by doing both? I learned discipline, resilience, resistance to frustration. I learned about myself, and I learned about others. Because the most important thing was not my academic performance, which of course it was important. The most important thing was that all of those experiences helped me become more emotionally intelligent. It is thanks to the experiences that I have always felt better equipped to make informed decisions in my life that have helped me become the person that I am today. But what exactly is emotional intelligence? And why has it become such a popular term? Is it really that relevant? Research on emotional intelligence has started with the studies of Salovey and Mayer in 1990, so it's only about 25 years old. But it became most popular with the publication of Daniel Goleman's bestseller, Emotional Intelligence: Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. When I read this title, I thought, this is interesting, kind of gave me hope. Think when you were younger. Who in this room could multiply in their heads 55 times 44? Anyone? No. Would you be able to do it now? No, definitely not me. And that's because numeric aptitude is not a very malleable aptitude. However, emotional intelligence is a lot more flexible. You can practice it and improve it every day. Emotional intelligence is the capacity to perceive, understand, and manage your own emotions as well as others. Daniel Goleman outlines 4 capacities to describe emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Shall we take a look at them? I already told you that I am the 6th of 7 kids. In my family, any evidence of weakness meant death. There was no room for errors, and understanding my emotions was key for survival. If I was fighting with my brother, I had to know whether I was feeling fear or anger. If my sister took my clothes without permission, was I feeling envious? Was I insecure? Or was I jealous? The first capacity in emotional intelligence is therefore to know what you feel, and that is self-awareness. And I can assure you that self-awareness, I can assure you that music, it's a great way to learn this. For me, getting used to performing the piano in front of an audience helped me develop my self-awareness and strengthen my self-confidence. You can't ignore the roller coaster of emotions that goes inside you. But just like with any discipline, the more you practice, the better you get at it. Music also became an emotional shelter for me, or I sometimes think about it as an emotional translator that helped me understand my emotions and express my feelings. What is the second capacity? It is the ability to develop discipline and self-control. Goldman refers to it as self-management. And let me tell you, music for me has been the most demanding discipline in my entire education. Practice, practice, practice. The great pianist Arthur Rubinstein used to say, if I miss 1 day of practice, I notice it. If I miss 2 days of practice, my manager notices it. If I miss 3 days of practice, the public knows it. It's also thanks to this ability that we learn to redirect and control our disruptive impulses and to be more prudent with our own judgment. In other words, to think before act. And here's a funny story. When I was in boarding school, my first roommate was really unfriendly and she was one of those mean girls. So the first day we were having breakfast and she told me, Maria, you talk in your sleep. Really? What do I say? You were saying, you are impolite. That was my subconscious betraying me. And what happened was that throughout the day, all I wanted to tell her was, you are rude, you're impolite. But I had to exercise my ability, my self-control, my ability to redirect my impulsive, I just wanted to tell her to her face. But of course, when my self-management. Of course, when I fell asleep, it all came out. Now you know what can happen if we share a room. Now, what about the others? Goldman talks about a third capacity that is called social awareness. And it is the ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people and to treat individuals according to their emotional reactions. Music is probably the fastest and the most direct way to connect with emotions. Wasn't it great, the performance that we saw before with Olivia? Yeah. It's impossible not to feel anything with music. Any musicians here? Yeah. Well, you all know that the first thing that you need to do when you're playing in a band, aside from not being late and knowing your part, you really have to be listening to one another. You have to understand when you're doing your solo and being the protagonist versus when you're accompanying. Or let's say you are the leader of the band. Leadership and the art of diplomacy are key to keeping the band together and to successfully develop your musical project. And that is social awareness. The fourth and last capacity in emotional intelligence is relationship management. And it is the ability to create networks and to find common ground and to build rapport. I already told you about my first day in boarding school. Now this is what happened on the second day in boarding school. I went to the practice rooms to play the piano, and this guy comes in, and he was a singer from the school choir. So we started chatting, we became friends, we started to play together, and he introduced me to his other friends who were also musicians, and we all became friends, and then they introduced me to their other friends who were also musicians, and we became friends, and I built a network. Music creates bonds between people and between cultures. Music is democratic. And the people here in Valencia knows this very well. There is a fantastic phenomenon happening in this region where in every family there is a musician. And in every town, there is a symphonic band. And everybody plays together in the symphonic band, from grandparents to grandchildren. They all play and practice music together. And this, for me, is an excellent example of how music being played and practiced together can be a unique tool for social cohesion. Today, I have the honor of leading the Berklee campus in Valencia, and now I realize how all of those experiences during my youth were more important and deep than I would have ever imagined. When I see all our students that come to Berklee from more than 50 different countries, they're so different from each other, and it is absolutely amazing how, in a matter of minutes, they can start playing together, and magic happens. Somehow they're able to quickly find a harmonious balance, respecting each other's contributions, and celebrating their differences, listening to one another. They all become one in a beautiful and spoken consensus. Music can be more than a technical skill for our students. Just like what it did for me, it can serve as a catalyst to improve their relationship with themselves and with others. Music can help our students become smarter, better people, and more emotionally mature. In fact, scientific findings show positive correlation between emotional intelligence and cognitive abilities, social functioning, mental and health well-being, and academic and workplace performance. So if this is the case, the question is simple. Why don't we learn this in the schools? Why don't we incorporate this in our education systems? Why do we always give priority to subjects like maths, science, or technology, which of course are important? But why do we always find at the very bottom, or sometimes even inexistent, the courses that precisely help us develop our emotional intelligence? I think it's quite remarkable that we have invented the internet, that we have phones with more computing power than a computer from the 90s, that we have discovered embryonic stem cells, we're launching spacecrafts to Mars, and yet, as a society and as individuals, we too often react, just like Goldman puts it, we too often react to conflict and life vicissitudes with an emotional repertoire tailored for the urgencies of the Pleistocene. Let's be aware of this big deficit in our education systems, and let's address it. Let's foster an academic and education model that expands our horizon and develops our human potential. I have thought a lot about what my mother told me, but I wouldn't recommend her advice. Let's have kids, and let's teach them music. Because perhaps, despite this world that we live in, with all of these difficulties they will face, with music and emotional intelligence, they can become wiser and happier. Thank you.